All right, YouTube. I thought it was time to discuss because, of course, Super Tuesday is coming up. Tonight is Nevada for the Republicans. Trump's like 15, 20 points ahead, so not much competition there. South Carolina for the Democrats. Hillary's, 20 or 30 points ahead. Again, not much going on there, really. It's not going to change anything at the end of the night. And into tomorrow because it's Pacific time. It's in the Western United States. So poor media, they'll have to report on it a day late for the most part. I thought it was time to talk about why I'm not feeling the burn. I say this as a Vermonter, somebody who lives in Sanders State. I'm fully aware of the fact VPR is the only firm that bothered to do a poll because it's kind of obvious that he's well ahead. He's polling at around 78% to 80%, which is what I expected. I predicted that would be around the number that he would vastly outperform Hillary Clinton. It's his home state. It was obvious. Vermonters don't really like corporate Democrats anyway, any more than they like evangelical Republicans. They like people who are on the fringe, which is why Trump will probably win this state too. I'm not feeling the burn because of this. Well, I respect Bernie Sanders as a senator. I have no real. I mean, he represents Vermont quite well. He sort of does represent how Vermont does business. He's far left on fiscal issues, which is a disaster for our state, but let's leave that alone for the moment. But he's not anti-gun particularly. He's not pro-corporate, like Hillary, taking money from Goldman Sachs and so forth. So I can respect that. As a senator, he does a fairly good job. However, I wouldn't vote for him to be the U.S. president. I don't care if people say that this is because I'm, I don't know, a conspiracy theorist or a Nazi or any of these other terms that self-proclaimed socialists, anarchists, communists, and progressives backing him like to label their critics. And I do, by the way, admittedly think that he's far more honest than Hillary Clinton. I wouldn't vote for her either. Her fans call you a sexist if you refuse to support her. Bernie Sanders fans usually just say that you're delusional or something like that. I say that because of this. I'm self-employed. I'm not a multimillionaire, rich oligarch corporatist. I'm not a hedge fund manager pulling in a high six-figure income. I don't particularly care if whoever the next president is attempts to go after these echelons of society, because these are the same people largely that, number one, in many cases, they produce nothing. They simply manipulate money and graft it. Number two, a lot of their investments and holdings they put overseas, so, they're just using tax havens. They're trying to take money out of the U.S. system. So because of that general dishonesty, I don't have a really much of a problem if Sanders goes after them if president and attempts to repatriate that money and then use that to fund various social welfare. I don't really care because all things considered, those people probably, in general, they deserve to be gone after. I mean, you can't call yourself a patriot. Can't call yourself hyper-American hot dogs and apple pie if you're then taking most of what you're doing and putting it somewhere else so that, nobody can touch it here. It smacks of a little bit of hypocrisy to then rant about how American you are. No, this isn't alcohol. It's just grape juice. I was in the mood for some fruit. And it's the real shit, not the fake 5% juice bullcrap. But Bernie Sanders on fiscal issues will go after hedge fund managers and corporate oligarchs and all of the usual bad guys that fund people like Hillary or Ted Cruz. That's fine. Unfortunately, because of the structure of the U.S. tax plan, somebody like myself who is self-employed is already taxed as though they're a corporate entity. A corporate entity that doesn't have multi-millions of dollars to hire lawyers and accountants to get around all of the corporate taxes that people impose. See, we've got the highest corporate tax in the world. We do. It's an absolute fact. But the effective rate is one of the lowest because the big corporations, they just lie and cheat their way through it and they don't really end up paying anything. This screws the middle class. It screws small businesses. It screws those that are technically wealthy, but much of their wealth goes into their small or regional business. Those are the people that get screwed, along with the self-employed population, the authors, the editors, the graphic designers, the freelance coders, people who don't work directly for a company. They loan themselves out to do work, or they're working for themselves specifically and getting money in some way for what they're doing. These are the people that get screwed under our current tax plan. Now, these are people that should be either wealthy or in the middle class. I don't begrudge some doctor $250,000 a year when they're saving hundreds of people's lives. I'm not going to play fucking class warfare with that. I don't agree with that. I say leave them the fuck alone. They're working hard for what they make. So too, though, that doctor may be protected because they're being taxed at a higher rate, but they're not considered a corporation. They're not considered a business entity simply by virtue of working for themselves, which is fucking retarded. But people who are self-employed, people who have small businesses, people who they do they have their own family company or something like that, and they're not making millions a year, I assure you, in most cases, they're getting hammered. So why would I want to vote for somebody who's going to up that same tax rate that is applied to all of these groups of people without ever differentiating, oh yeah, but there'll be exceptions on this increase for authors and for, people who have their own home carpentry firm or something. He hasn't made that differentiation. He's saying all of the usual things about, oh, we need to go after the hedge fund managers and CEOs. I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is you haven't said anything about restructuring the tax code to alleviate the increase of taxation that you're talking about on those of us who are being productive. I'm not rich. I'm not making six figures. I'm not making seven figures. I'm not shuffling cards and pieces of paper around all day. Trying to figure out ways to keep more of my massive fortune that I make from investing other people's money. I'm self-employed. So under Bernie Sanders' tax plan, I would get absolutely fucking screwed because he would treat me or many millions of other people within the country. Again, if you own a small business, if you're self-employed, as your main job or on the side, if you do investing, but you don't have to be a multimillionaire investor actually running a hedge fund, something like that, you investing your own money, you're going to get fucked. That's a reason why Sanders, I think, is falling through. Yes, it's all well and good to say, well, we're going to take care of the student loans. Okay, how are you going to pay for it? Oh, well, we'll up this tax and that tax and this tax. Well, what about somebody like me with student loans who falls into that category because of our tax code? It's not giving me any alleviation whatsoever. Why the fuck would I vote for that? I don't care how many social issues that I agree with Sanders on. I'm on board with him on gay marriage. I'm probably further left than he is on abortion. I'm definitely further left than he is on the drug war. I side squarely with the libertarians. I don't want the government telling anybody what they can put in their bodies. I'm not a fan of, shut the border, close tight, and deport everyone. Border wall, yeah, that's fine, deporting everyone. Major issue that I don't happen to agree with. I'm right on board with Sanders on a lot of these issues. And I don't really care whether he attempts to fund something like universal health care if he can explain exactly how it's going to be paid for. The problem is the explanation that he's given is sour grapes to me because I get screwed under that tax plan. I would end up probably paying more than half of what I'm earning through the methodology that I'm using to earn it. Now, I have worked very hard for several years now to get where I am now. I'm still forging ahead. It's not, even if he got elected and implemented his tax plan, I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, you can be damn sure that I'd be claiming all the welfare benefits that I could possibly claim because the government would be screwing me up the asshole, and it would only be fair for them to give me as much aid back as possible. Of course I would. I'd be an idiot not to. I'm not going to sit there and watch DC siphon away more than half of what I make and then offer me shitty health care that I'm still going to end up having to pay something on, let's face it, in return. That's not an even trade at all. So no, I'm not feeling the burn whatsoever. By the way, Bernie Sanders, for all of the good things he has stood for, yes, he is generally anti-war. He funded the Iraq war. I don't care that he didn't vote for it like Hillary did or like any of a million other people did. Yeah, we know. He stood aside and he said, no, I'm not comfortable with this. That's great. Instead of continuing to stand against it, you voted to fund the war when you didn't have to do that. It wasn't necessary. I mean, your vote wasn't necessary for it to pass. You could have stood on principle. You chose not to. Bernie said, you look at the state of Vermont, and please trust somebody who lives within the state that Bernie Sanders represents. There's a reason he's been in Vermont so long. There's a reason that he was the mayor of Burlington. There's a reason he was a representative and now a senator for so many fucking years. He's been in there since long before I was born. There's a reason for that. The state of Vermont has adopted, time and time again, a high tax, high spending model that has made our state very clean and very well educated. We spend more on education than any other state. We do, to some degree, get results. That's because we have small local schools rather than these big prison-looking bodies that they have in other states. If you adopted that model, you'd pay a little bit more and you'd get far better results, by the way, to people in other states. New Hampshire does it well, quite in the same manner, Minnesota and so forth. Now, these states with better education, they all basically use the same model that we've been using now for quite some time. It's good, but it does cost a lot. We spend a lot on education. We do have a high educational attainment rate. We have a very clean environment. We have lots of crystal clear water and green mountains and things like that. But we don't really have jobs. The problem is, fundamentally, people want to be in an area where they can make a living, where they can at least break even, hopefully get ahead. There are places in this country right now where you can certainly break even, a place like Texas. Some place like that, a place like Arizona, a place like parts of Florida, something like that. You can break even there. It's increasingly difficult, though, even in a low-tax state with very few regulations at the state level to get ahead because the federal government rules over everything with an iron fist. By the way, one way in which they pass all of the shittiest laws, I don't care what it is they'll do this. They'll increase taxes, build up some money. They'll create a nice new program to because now the people of the states are taxed more, they need more aid in return. The federal government will then say, oh, well, we'll disperse this money back as part of such and such a program. We'll give these states grants for education or grants for the roads or something. Oh, but in order to do that, the states need to pass this law that we happen to favor. For instance, the drinking age. Did you know that at any time, any of the states can lower the drinking age, which should have been done nationally a long time ago, so that we could address the real issue of alcoholism instead of pretending that it has something to do with a person's age or their liver's age or something like that? Any state can do that, but you know what happens if they do? They lose highway funding from the federal government. See, that's how it works. The federal government has bullied the states into compliance through this model. I have no doubt that if Bernie Sanders were elected to the U.S. presidency, he'd do the same thing with all the other programs he wants. He would force them down the throats of people, in many cases, who do not want them. I don't want to pay a 50 or 60 or 70% tax simply because I happen to be my own boss, when I am not exactly getting rich doing what I'm doing. So no, I'm not going to vote for the bastard. I'm not feeling the burn at all. I don't have any problem with him being the senator from Vermont. He does a good job. There's a reason he has so much fucking support in the state. He does represent what this state is. That's great. I don't want the country to be what this state is, because this state's economy is insolvent, and they don't want to admit it. So you'll never hear Sanders talk about the state of the economy here in Vermont. Yes, it's clean, high education, that's great, low crime, that's great. The problem is, if we were to export the same type of model we use in this state, which is essentially a tourist haven, that's the only reason we've survived, to every other state, they can't all be tourist havens. They can't all be like Vermont. It's impossible. There are industries in this country that are required in order for the country to actually exist as a nation. The fact that the Vermont model depresses the income of most Vermonters. The only thing keeping most of them from leaving is the fact that the state, because of its high tax policies, funds a lot of welfare. So they take $1 from a person, they give them 90 cents back, And at the end of the day, most of those in poverty in this state, they're saying, okay, well, I can understand that. That's just great. But if we were to try to do that on a national level, we wouldn't have an economy. We're not Switzerland. We're not some microstate somewhere that can thrive on tourism. We're not Monaco. We're not Switzerland. I've got Dell back up in recovery trying to come up in here in front of the video. Fuck Dell. We're not a microstate. We just can't do it that way. We've got oil we've got to extract. I know most of Bernie Sanders fans probably think oil's the devil. That's fine. We have nuclear weapons. We're not exactly going to be able to maintain them and not get nuked ourselves and keep the grand chessboard at a stalemate so that all hell doesn't break loose unless we have some sort of industry. Now, as for the military-industrial complex, yes, get rid of it. It's antithetical to real capitalism. I'm a capitalist. I want to see people compete. I don't want to see all these taxes. I don't hate gay people. I don't hate women that have abortions. I don't hate the poor for getting food stamps. I don't hate any of them. And that's exactly, of course, what people will call you if you dare to stand against, I guess, Bernie Sanders' agenda. It's actually rather strange. They don't even just target Hillary fans. I can understand why you'd want to batter Hillary Clinton, because she's his main competitor. But even people that are like independent, they haven't jumped on board with Bernie Sanders. Oh, you must be racist, vile bigot, far right. You must be... Do I look like a Christian evangelical to you? Do I look like a card-carrying Ted Cruz fan or something? The only one on the Republican side that I can even tolerate is Donald Trump. And that's primarily because his bullshit about, I believe in traditional marriage. No, he doesn't. He doesn't give a fuck about that. He gave an interview back in the 90s where he said just that. It was political suicide back in the 90s to actually say that you were on board with it. Hillary Clinton in 2006, as a state senator, said she believed in traditional marriage. And people took it seriously at the time. A lot of the youth didn't vote for her because of this, but she got the older person vote. And she got into office. She realized she wouldn't be viable if she said, yeah, gay marriage is fine with me. Donald Trump, meanwhile, comes out in the 90s and says that. And he doesn't have a problem with abortion. I'll tell you that right now. When he goes to this town hall on Fox, he says, yeah, well, I'm against abortion because reasons. I like Planned Parenthood, but I wouldn't fund them if they do abortion. Of course he's going to fund them. Of course he's going to fucking fund them. Either that or he's going to create something else that's just not Planned Parenthood that does exactly the same thing and does abortions. That's probably what he has in mind. He just wants to lower the cost so he can lower the tax rate further. No, I'm not going to feel the burn or be gulled by the fact that I'm a Vermonter in primarying for him or voting for him in the general election, which, by the way, chances are he won't actually be in. Bernie Sanders is basically doomed. The funny thing is, there are a lot of people who are Sanders fans. They hate Hillary pathologically, but they're willing to vote for her because the Republicans are mean and nasty and scary to us. You don't even seem to fucking realize Hillary Clinton's getting money from the same people as those scary, mean people over there that you claim to hate so much. She's getting her money. She's making speeches to Goldman Sachs for a fucking reason. At the very least, though, if Hillary were to get elected, which I don't think is going to fucking happen, Hillary Clinton probably would raise taxes, but she'd raise it by 0.5% or something. She'd pull an Obama. People would cast her all election. Oh, she's going to tax and spend to everybody. At the end of the day, she's not actually going to tax and spend anybody because she's not going to have a mandate from Congress to fucking do anything anyway. The problem with Sanders is he'll use the bully pulpit with his rabid fans and try to gull the centrist Republicans into obeisance. The problem is, under people like McConnell and Boehner, they just roll over and die any time that they're dealing with Obama. They say, we're not doing what Obama wants. And then the next day they say, oh, well, maybe we can compromise. And then on the third day they say, oh, Obama gets everything that he wants. They do this in the worst possible times, too. We have a budget that gets passed that spends us through the fucking roof, and they don't block it. We have a Supreme Court opening. You can be damn sure the person that Obama tries to put there is not going to be a friend of the Second Amendment, certainly not going to be a friend of the Fourth. Right to privacy, Obama violates it on a daily basis. Obama's the most pro-surveillance president that we've ever fucking had, and he's supposedly a liberal. They should block the individual that he tries to put forward, but they're not. They're not going to block him. They're going to say, oh, well, we want to. They'll get him to sign off on some minor detail that they happen to want in some backroom meeting. And McConnell and Boehner will come out and say, oh, please vote for it. Or Paul Ryan now instead of John Boehner, who is basically a younger, slimmer John Boehner anyway. I'm surprised he doesn't break down in fucking tears all the time anyway. They roll over and die anytime Obama comes in and tells them how it's going to be. Except on things like Cuba, where they should be supporting him because it's important to our country to rebuild diplomatic relations with a country that we're no longer embargoing. And then they come out and say, oh, traitor Obama, he wants to close Gitmo, which you were all in favor of 5 or 6 years ago. Oh, he's going to Cuba. What a horrible, he's going to meet with communists. What, we're not going to have diplomatic relations with a nation that's right next to fucking Florida? Just because of bad blood from the JFK era? I mean, these people are just as preposterous as somebody as Sanders. The difference is this. I can't feel the burn because I can't bring myself to vote for somebody who really wants to screw my wallet. It's the money, stupid. It's just not going to happen. I mean, the chances are remote. The chances are remote that he'll be nominated. Let's face it. Hillary already has, 400 superdelegates stacked up or something? He has to win everything on Super Tuesday just to sort of even it out, and that's not going to happen. She's going to win most of those states. He'll win Vermont. Maybe he stands a fighting chance in Virginia or a few of these others, maybe Colorado. Other than that, no, he's not going to get anything. He's going to get shit. He's going to get shit on from above by somebody whose proxy is in charge of the DNC. But as far as my wallet is concerned, that makes me happy. No, and I'm not a supporter of socialism either. I don't care how you spin socialism. It's democratic socialism. It's progressivism. It's something else-ism. At the end of the day, it's the same goddamn principle. It doesn't work. I don't want to pay for a bunch of other people's programs. I'm too busy trying to put 2 cents together for myself. There are tens of millions of people who feel the same way, and before you call us greedy, evil right-wingers, I am not rich. I'm part of the working class. You call me greedy, and it just slides right off my back. I don't fucking care. I know. I don't care about getting free. You've got to do quotes here. Free healthcare. It's not free healthcare. It's paid for by tax money. I don't care if Bernie Sanders is primarily taxing the multi-billionaires. He's also going to tax me. So why the hell would I vote for him? Just not going to happen. So I thought that was a good pre-Super Tuesday rant. Nevada, of course, is tonight. I mean, Hillary is, ahead in South Carolina on the Democratic side. She's going to make mincemeat of Sanders, and he's doomed, basically, at this point. Trump is going to win the Nevada caucus. Probably not by 20 points like the last round of polling suggests, because remember, it's a caucus state, and those polls are woefully outdated. They haven't done any real polling in Nevada. They did a bunch for the Democrats. They had 6 or 7 polls amalgamated on RCP. They have 2 for the Republican Party. What the fuck? All of Fox News says, ooh, it's difficult to poll Nevada. That's funny. The aggregated total was 1 point away from reality on the Democratic side. Maybe you're just fucking scared. And by the way, I will say, I'm very happy about Donald Trump ripping the GOP apart. The Bushes and the Roves and the Priebus's and all these other idiots that run the GOP totally deserve it. And so, too, does an idiot evangelocon like Ted Cruz, who's not even eligible for the office at the end of the day. It would be just shy of treason to vote for some idiot like that, even if he fucking knew what he was doing. And he's barely holding on to a very slight single-digit lead in his home state of Texas for a goddamn reason. Some of those people understand he can't even serve as the U.S. president. Why in the motherfuck would they support him? It would be just as stupid, again, as me voting myself much higher taxes by supporting my fellow Vermonter. Yes, my fellow Ben & Jerry's, ice cream, maple syrup. I understand the dude. Vermonter Bernie Sanders, yes, he's very funny. And he knows how to mix it up with the media, and he's not taking Wall Street money. That's very good, but he wants to take my money. See, then that means I can't support him. So sorry, folks, I'm not feeling the burn. And I'm a Vermonter. You can take my word for it. Why don't you come and actually see this state and see something other than the tourist resorts and tell me what you see? You're going to see a lot of poverty. That poverty leads to a lot of drugs. That's really the only crime we have here. We don't have people shooting each other in the streets. That's true. You're going to see a surprising amount of trash if you go off the main roads and it's not, a week after Green Up Day, by the way. Yeah, we're cleaner than most states. I can attest to that, having lived in Texas and Florida and Rhode Island and having gone to, half of the eastern states. Yeah, it is clean. It does have a good education rate, and we pay through the nose for that. And then most of those kids that get that grand education here that's on par with Sweden or Norway, they move out of the state because there's no jobs for them. That's not a winning strategy. Do you want to have a country where we're all taxed to fucking death? Yeah, things are clean and we're at peace and no more nuclear weapons. Just let Russia run roughshod over the world. It doesn't fucking matter because we've got a militia because Bernie doesn't want to take your guns like Hillary does. What does that matter if people start fucking moving out because they can't even get a job here? Or they have to rely on welfare? No, I don't want to rely on welfare. I want to make it on my own because I have faith in myself and believe I can do that. And I'm already proving that I can. I don't want to get smacked in the face by Bernie Sanders' tax-ridden dick while I'm already making my ascent. I don't want it to happen. I'd vote for Trump before I'd vote for him. Because even if I disagree with Trump on a great many issues, at least he doesn't care about my money. He's probably not going to tax me at all. If I can keep 100% of what I'm making or like 99% of what I'm making, hell yeah, bring on Trump. I don't fuck it. If he puts out his tax plan, if he talks about it and he says something to that effect, yeah, people that are self-employed shouldn't be fucking screwed as though they were business entities. Yeah, I'll vote for him. I'll vote for my wallet. Yeah, I'll do that because, the Libertarian Party is what I'm a member of. Like libertarianism, strongly supported. I'm not on board with Trump's more authoritarian views. But he also wants to go after Citizens United, it seems, and the only way forward I can see for the Libertarian Party to actually become a viable party is getting rid of it. Now, short of Gary Johnson magically being elected to the U.S. presidency, which, let's face it, it's not going to happen, I would think that a lot of libertarians would really be on board with that. I don't care if Trump builds his wall. I'm ambivalent to it. I don't want to see illegals deported. Maybe get them registered so that they're legalized, take their fingerprints or whatever. Okay, that's a good compromise. I don't want to see them deported. I don't really care about what ISIS does and don't think we need to bomb them. I think we need to firebomb Saudi Arabia, and I have a feeling he's going to unredact the 9/11 report, and that's probably what he's going to fucking do, and you're going to see a firestorm in Mecca and Riyadh pretty quick. Yeah, that's fine. I'll vote for Trump. I'll vote for Trump if it means that I can, get ahead, because I don't want to be taxed to death by socialism. We've seen what it does to nations. It destroys them. It makes them boring and stagnant and stupid, and people start moving out for a reason. The only people they can import are a bunch of people that are so desperately impoverished and destabilized because of the Western world to begin with, like the Syrians, that they're willing to go anywhere. They're willing to go to a heavily censored place like Europe where they can get a little bit of welfare in exchange for not getting blown up constantly. Yeah, it's really sad what socialism does to a nation. No, look, the socialists in the EU. Oh, but the EU is falling apart. The British might leave the EU. It'll crumble. Their currency is already all fucked up. Their trade's already all fucked up. They're ridden with fucked up bureaucrats. They're dying. Europe is no longer. The fact that people are seriously discussing leaving the EU shows it's failing. It's only a matter of time before it splinters anyway. It's going to become Germany and Germany's vassal states. They give Germany lots of agricultural goods and skilled workers. Germany exports some machines and industrial goods and stuff like that, and everybody within that German sphere will be happy. It'll be just like the Fourth Reich if Hitler had decided that he wanted to have semi-autonomous regional governors. That's essentially what the EU is going to resemble probably in a decade or two. So I don't want to see that here. No, I'm not feeling the Bern at all. I like him on social issues, but on fiscal issues, he's completely lost me. That's about all. Peace out.